Headlines breaking moments ago. In an interview with the New York Times, President-elect Trump urging Republicans to move ahead with the immediate repeal of Obamacare and the immediate replacement. However, 5 Republican senators want to delay the repeal until there is a viable replacement in place. An amendment was introduced yesterday by Senators Bob Corker, Lisa Murkowski, Bill Cassidy, Rob Portman, and Susan Collins. And joining us are 2 of those senators, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. Senators, both, thank you very much for joining us. Both of you in 2015 voted effectively for the repeal of Obamacare and the Restoring Americans Healthcare Freedom Reconciliation Act. What has changed from then until now, Senator Murkowski?
Well, repeal is still what is in front of us. And I think it's important to recognize that certainly everyone in our conference is adamant that we move forward with the repeal. We do so expeditiously. What we also want to do, though, is make sure that we replace it with a structure that does right by the American people. And so making sure that we are being smart as we do the replace simultaneous with the repeal is important.
Senator Cassidy, effectively, Donald Trump has come out and said to the New York Times, get this done now. You're probably willing to do that if there is a backup plan. Is there any viable black backup plan floating around Congress, the Senate, the House? Does anybody have anything, or is it literally, we got nothing, we're going to repeal it and be left with a black hole?
I have a plan that I introduced on the Senate side with Senator Collins, and another similar plan introduced with Pete Sessions, who's a congressman. So absolutely we have a plan. But to go back to what you asked Senator Murkowski, I will say that what has changed between 2 years and now is that we also have the opportunity to replace. And so in that initial portion of the repeal, you want to set the stage for the replace. We knew that President Obama wouldn't sign our replace. Now we know that President-elect Trump will. We have to set up that replace in a step-by-step. I call it all due haste. You don't plan a building and start building without plans. You build the plans and then you build the building. And that's what we're trying to do.
So I'm confused. We heard from Paul Ryan saying it's going to happen within the next 200 days. I mean, how much delay are you guys talking about?
Well, again, when you use the word delay, what we are doing right now, the way the budget reconciliation and budget resolution process is working, is we are moving through that step that gets us towards the vote on repeal. That's necessary. I think you will have all Republicans supporting that. What we are asking for is to make sure that as we are doing the replacement, we do it as expeditiously as we can, but we allow for that replace mechanism, that return mechanism, whatever it is you want to call it, that it is reasoned, rational, and
But is that
thoughtful.
days or weeks, Senator Cassidy?
No.
What is that?
We asked to postpone, if you will, the date of consideration till March. Leadership came back to us and said, listen, that January 27th is not a deadline. That is as soon as it could be considered. But our bill is perfectly consistent with what actually the current setup is. We could go, even without our amendment, as late as March, if that's what it takes to put all the pieces in place.
So
and by the way,
go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Senator. Please finish your thought.
By the way, there are pieces. Tom Price, when he is HHS Secretary, should be in part of the conversation. We need to work out the way of paying for this. We need to have the plan itself and the pathway to implement. Lastly, some votes to repeal and replace will take some Democrats, and we need to speak to them. So there's 4 components that we need to address that we will do in all due haste. It's not that we're delaying. Yeah. It's just that we want to make sure things are set up for this imploding Obamacare to be replaced with something that works for the American people.
The president-elect has indicated that he's willing to go for some timeline that feels like a few weeks, which you can argue is March or not March. But whatever. This to me is procedural stuff. Very important, very interesting for all of us to follow. The art of the politics of it is highly fascinating. But let me ask a more baseline question, and either of you can answer. How much longer will Americans live under Obamacare as their principal safety net insurance plan before the Replace program brought forth by the administration and basically the GOP takes shape? Is it 1 year, Are they going to be looking at a new program in 3 years? What?
The plan that I put forward with Susan Collins with co-sponsors, as well as Pete Sessions on the House side, would do this. In 2017, Congress enables state legislatures to choose between options. In 2018, the states choose the option they wish to replace Obamacare with. In 2019, they implement the replacement. Obamacare goes away, and by 2020, it's all done. Lisa used the comment of repeal and return. We want to return authority away from Washington bureaucrats back to the state legislature, to folks who actually live near and next door to those who are going to be using the insurance. It should be decided on a state level, in a state capital, not the nation's capital.
I think one of the things that needs to be said out there is, I don't think anyone wants to be in the place where we say on Tuesday we repeal Obamacare as we know it. But beyond that, we don't give the people of this country any certainty, any direction about what happens next, because that uncertainty is as frightening as the debacle that so many are facing with an Obamacare system that is just not working for them. So making sure, again, that there is a framework, that there is a transition. There's a lot of fancy Washington words that are being used right now. But what we don't want to do is inject additional uncertainty to the Americans, to the families, to the insurance market. This is what we're trying to avoid here. So let's make it work.
Senator Murkowski, thank you very much for your time. Senator Cassidy,